Yo, what is good with y'all, man? My name is Tej, and by popular demand, in this video, I'm gonna show y'all how I mix my beats, specifically how to make your 808s and the rest of your drums hit hard. So for this one, I'm gonna show y'all the loop, and then I'll quickly go through adding the drums, and then I'll show y'all my mixing process. According to my YouTube analytics, about 80 to 85% of y'all who watch these videos aren't subscribed. So if you're new and you enjoy these types of videos, be sure to hit subscribe. And if you wanna know the latest on what I'm working on, be sure to go follow me on Instagram. And I think I've said enough, so let's just hop right into this beat. All right, so before I hop into the beat, I'm just gonna play the sample real quick, and then I'll just play like a time lapse of me just adding the drums. So usually for my beats, I try to keep it within about 5 to 7, maybe 8 drum sounds. So for this beat, I have my 808, clap, open hat, snare, and hi-hat. And I'm just gonna lay those down real quick, and then I'll hop into the actual mixing. So now I've got my drums laid out. So first things first with the 808, this is pretty similar to just a normal spins 808, just with the out knob turned up a little bit. The first thing you want to do is you want to go to the second tab here in your audio clip menu, and then you want to put an envelope on the sound. All you're going to do is turn all these knobs down except for the hold. You want to turn that all the way up, and you want to do this for all of your sounds that are going to sustain for a while. So like if you have a one shot or a perc or anything of that sort, this is pretty helpful for those types of sounds. As for the rest of the sounds, I just left them mostly the same. Pretty much all these drum sounds are standard sounding, like there's nothing too crazy about them. It's just like a spins 808, a sizzle clap, a Southside open hat, a normal like Lex Luger snare, and a hit one hi-hat. So pretty generic drum sounds. You don't need any specific types. You could use any types of drum sounds with this. So long as you mix it well, it should sound just fine. So jumping into the mixer here, I selected all of my audio clips that I was using by holding right click and selecting them, and then just going to my selected mixer track. And on PC, I hit Control-Shift-L, and it routed them as the same order as they were in the channel rack into the mixer track. So now each of the drum sounds, including the sample, is routed to here. So starting from here, typically I'll start by leveling out the melody here. Sometimes I do this by ear, but mostly for me personally, I find it easiest to use like some visual indication and then just use my ear after that. So typically my melodies, I want them in like these verse parts to be at most around like -15 to -18 dB. And with like the sub bass and all the components put together for the loop, I'll probably want that to be at most around -12 to -9. So this is a pretty good spot for where I want it to be. So next, usually I'll go to my clap sound, and for this sound, I'll level it out between -9 or -6. From there, I'll make small adjustments just depending on how I want it to sound. And then after that, I'll go to my hi-hat, and this will sit a little lower than the clap. So this will be around like -15 to -12. Typically, me personally, I like to pan my hi-hats to the left, but this sound's already panned to the left. But if yours is already in mono or is more centralized, you can use this knob to pan your sound. So if I wanted to pan it more to the left, I could turn it this way, and more to the right, I could do it the other way. And a good amount of industry producers, they'll put effect tricks on their hi-hats from time to time just to make it a little bit different and just kind of make them stand out compared to other tracks. Usually I'll use like the reverse, reverb, and delay effects. You can use all the other ones and feel free to experiment. And you can use different VSTs such as Looperator for this too, but I'll just put on like a pretty simple pattern for now. So now moving on to the next drum sound, I'm gonna go and mix the snare. And typically my snares, I'll pan them a little bit to the right. I'll have these sit kind of in a similar range to the clap. So it'll be from around like -9 to -6 dB. and then I'll do my open hat. I don't really have like a specific range. I just use my ear. For me, usually this is the quietest sound in the mix, so you'll just kind of see how I fit it in with the rest of the sound so far. And for any perks that you have, I didn't add them into this beat. Typically, I would keep those probably within the range of like the hi-hats and maybe snare. So anywhere from like maybe -18 to like -12 is usually what I'd put them. And so for all the ranges that I'm going to give y'all for this, these are kind of arbitrary. They aren't necessarily like absolute, you have to have it within this range, but this is just typically what I do. And so now moving on to the last drum sound, which is the 808. And for this, I'll try to mix it between like -3 and 0, probably around halfway in between them. And then you also notice that it kind of fluctuates in where it peaks. So in order to keep that consistent, I'll put a fruity limiter on it, and then I'll just use this ceiling knob right here to kind of cut off any excess of like the loudness on the top of the 808. This way it just comes out a little cleaner when I put my master effects on it, and just seeing how much headroom I have, this keeps it pretty consistent. And then for my last sound, I didn't actually include this until afterwards, but I'll just show y'all how to mix a special effect like a riser, for example. Typically, I'll just pan this either to the left or the right, doesn't really matter. So now that I have all my drum sounds mixed, I'm gonna go to the master track here, and we have the default fruity limiter that's in the default FL Studio preset. For now, we're just gonna mute it, but not delete it. The first effect that I'm gonna add to the chain is an EQ, and I'll just go to the second band here and just put it up by 1 scroll wheel or up by 1.6 decibels, and then go to the last sound here and put it up by 2 notches up on the scroll wheel, so up to 3.2 decibels of boost. And this one, I'll just adjust accordingly to the beat. I'd say for this, I'll keep it between somewhere in the range of like 0 to 1 decibels. So in this case, I chose about like 0.8, 0.9 decibels. And then my next VST that I'm gonna open is Fruity Soft Clipper. So for this one, I don't want my 808 to sound too distorted before we put it into the last couple of effects. So I'll set the threshold to somewhere in like this range right here between the default and like these 2 tick marks. So I'll probably set it like around here, and then I'll play with the post knob so that it hits like just under 0 dB in the mixer. After I'm done with the soft clipper, I'll usually go into Fruity Multiband Compressor, and then I'll just go to the presets and select Mastering 2.4. I'll turn the limiter off and I'll play the beat. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn the gain down so that it's just above 0, so just to the point where the line starts turning red. And once I've found that spot, I'm going to just turn the limiter back on. And for my final effect on the master, I'm gonna go to the fruity limiter that we turned off at the beginning, and I'm gonna go to the envelope settings and turn all the knobs all the way down. And then I'm gonna play the beat, and I'm gonna turn the gain up until like the peaks are hitting on this white line right here, but not going over them. So as you can see, these are right underneath them. You don't need to turn the gain up by much. Typically, you'll only have to add like 1 or 1.2 decibels at most. This is what kind of gives that powerful sound to the Spins 808, is using the saturation knob right here. Personally, I try to use this a little bit sparingly. So at most, I'd say I'd go about like this far into the mix. So you can see on the mixer that it's also cutting off before 0 dB, so your rendered beat won't be clipping and it'll sound clean, but it'll also sound hard at the same time. That's pretty much it. So I'm just going to show y'all what the finished mix of the beat sounds like. So that's going to do it for me. Hope y'all enjoyed the video and found it pretty helpful. Leave a like if you enjoyed it. And again, subscribe if you do enjoy these types of videos. Let me know what you'd like to see me do next in the comments. Thank you for sticking till the end. I'll see y'all next time. Peace.